boys and girls, it's Mrs. Cruz, and today I am going to be teaching you how to make some fun springtime artwork using a sheet of watercolor paper, some tissue paper, cups of water, and a paintbrush. You could also use a spray bottle if you have one in place of a paintbrush. So you can choose if you want to use a spray bottle or a paintbrush. All right, to get started, you're going to first lay down your sheet of white watercolor paper. Doesn't matter if you have it this direction or this direction. Doesn't matter, just lay it down in front of you. And I'm going to show you a few examples of what they will look like when they are finished. Ta-da! Here's one example. Here is another example. You can see I got lots of different shapes on there. And then here is another example. And over the top of my tissue paper design, I put a muffin paper. I used a black marker and some beads in the middle to make it look like a flower. So everyone got a Ziploc bag full of different colors of tissue paper, and some of them are cut into square shapes. Some are triangles, some are bigger, and some are smaller. Here's a big one. So what you're going to do is take your pieces of tissue paper and kind of lay them out on your sheet of paper. We want to have almost the whole page filled up. If you would like to make areas with lots of triangles, like down here, these orange triangles, you can easily turn a square piece of paper into a triangle by cutting from one corner to the opposite corner. And when you cut this square in, right down the center, it's going to make you two triangles. So from one corner, open, shut them, open, shut them. You've now made that square into two triangles. I'll show you another example of how to make a shape like a heart. This is probably the most tricky shape to make, but if you just watch what I do here, you could try to make yourself a heart. So find a big square piece of tissue paper, fold it in half so that the corners match up, make a crease, and it would probably be easier if you use a pencil to do this before you cut. So start about right here, not at the very tip of the tissue paper, but go in a little bit. Make a rounded C shape. Make the letter C, just like that. And then from the bottom point of your C, make a diagonal line that goes out to the edge of the paper. A C shape, and then a diagonal that goes to the edge of the paper. Then you take your scissors and cut right on top of the line that you made. Take your time, and you're just moving this hand with the tissue paper. You don't have to move your scissors hand at all. Just use your hand that's touching the tissue paper and move that around. Okay? So it looks like I have a half of a heart, but when I open it up, ta-da! So maybe you want to put a heart on here. Like I said, we want to make sure that we fill up almost the whole entire paper. And right now I have my shapes spaced apart, but I want you to show me somewhere on your piece of paper that you can overlap the shapes. And areas where you overlap, it's going to make new colors. Here I had a pink and a blue, and where they overlapped, it made violet or purple. Where I had a pink overlap with a yellow, it turned orange. So show me that you can overlap some of these shapes. That means that you take one shape and put it over the top of another shape. When we do yellow over the top of blue, we'll make a new color, which will be green. So you don't have to overlap all your shapes, just some of them. And then it's time to get your water out. I'm going to first show you how to do it with a paintbrush, and then I'll show you how to do it with a spray bottle. So get a glass of water, maybe a cup that you don't regularly drink out of. It's kind of nice to have a see-through cup, that way you can see what color your water is turning. I have a big paintbrush and I have a little paintbrush. I sent you home each with a little paintbrush, but if you have a bigger one at home, that might even work better than a small paintbrush. So first I'll show you how to do it with a small paintbrush. Dip it in the water, and then you're just going to paint the water right over the top of each shape. You're going to want to get your shape covered with water. You want a nice layer of water over the whole entire shape. You don't want to leave any dry spots. This tissue paper you might have used before when you've wrapped a present for someone. If you put the present inside the bag, it looks kind of beautiful if you wrap the gift in tissue paper and then put it inside of the bag. Some tissue paper is white and some is colored. And in order to get the tissue paper colored, you have to put dye or ink on the tissue paper. So when I'm adding water over the top of my colored tissue paper, some of the ink or the dye is going to bleed onto the paper, which means the ink is going to come out of the tissue paper and it's going to stain my piece of white paper. So now I've got that heart. I've put a thin layer of water over the whole entire thing. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my bigger brush. Dip it in the water and go over the top of another shape. The reason I think that a bigger brush might work a little bit better is because it holds more water and it goes a little bit faster. So maybe I'll go over all my blue shapes right now. And then when I'm finished with the blue, whoops, got to be a little bit gentle, otherwise this might happen to you, where your tissue paper comes off the white paper and it might rip a little bit. But it's okay. See how I just fixed it? Just got it a little more wet to make it lay back down on the paper. All right, I got a couple more blue spots to do. And now that I'm going to switch colors, I'm going to make sure that I rinse my brush out good. My water is starting to turn a really light shade of blue. And then I'm going to keep going over each color at a time until I get my whole entire paper, all the shapes full of water. If you do not want to use a paintbrush, I'm going to show you now how to use a spray bottle. Okay. So you don't want to hold the spray bottle right next to the shape. You want to hold it back a little bit. And just lightly pull on this trigger, I guess you would call it. And it's soaking into that tissue paper and the dye is starting to come out. Can you see here where the ink is starting to come out and bleed onto the paper? So this is another option if you want to try this instead of a paintbrush. All right, so after everything is all wet, this might be the hard part, is to leave it alone until it's dry, because I know it looks gorgeous and you want to see what it looks like. But you have to let it dry for probably about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. You don't want to start peeling off the tissue paper until it's totally dry. Okay, so I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. And it is pretty wet, so I got to be careful, or I might drip on the floor or something. Okay. So I've already peeled the tissue paper off of here, but I'm going to just show you what I would do if it was still attached. Okay. You just lightly go to each corner of the tissue paper and gently pull it up. And then you're going to reveal these pretty shapes and new colors that you made. When that is all done, you could draw something over the top. I thought that since these are so springy and pretty looking, they would make a really excellent Mother's Day card, or maybe you could make a Mother's Day card for like your grandma or an aunt or whoever you want, someone special in your life. So like I said here, this would be an idea. You could use a cupcake paper, and I just put a little glue on it, stuck it on there. Then I shook some beads in the middle and first I put some glue in the center, and then I sprinkled some beads in the middle. Then I used a black marker to make kind of a curly stem and 2 leaves at the bottom. And I also wrote the year. You don't have to do this, it's just an idea. You could just write, I love you, happy Mother's Day if you wanted. So you can use any colors of tissue paper you want. Maybe you only want to use pinks and purples, that's fine. Maybe you want to use only cool colors like purple, blue, and green. That's fine too. As you continue to get your paper more and more wet, if your water gets kind of icky and turns colored, you might want to grab another cup so you have clear water to work with. When you are all finished with your tissue paper art, what I would like you to do is take a picture when it's dry, and then you can send the picture to my email, or you can upload it on Seesaw or Class Dojo, whichever your homeroom teacher uses. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.